All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Martin Hernandez, and I'm the Arts Internship Program Manager with the LA County Department of Arts and Culture. I'm joined by my amazing colleague, Mara Morris, our Assistant Division Director for Grants and Professional Development for the department. And together, we would like to welcome you to the 2026 LA County Arts Internship Program Application Workshop. The purpose of this workshop is to orient you to the program, go over all of the requirements, new and old, and give you some time to think about what makes a successful application. We do have quite a few changes to this year's guidelines that we will specifically call out, so please pay special attention to those areas. We will also give you a little preview of what to expect when you access the online application system. Please feel free to utilize the chat function for your questions. I will be stopping periodically throughout the presentation to answer those questions, and Mara will support me in lifting them up. So please just continue to drop them in the chat as I am presenting. While we welcome you to be on camera, if you'd like to keep your camera off for the duration of this session, we certainly understand. As we begin, we want to pause and acknowledge the first people of this ancestral territory. I welcome you to follow along as I read the official LA County land acknowledgement created in partnership with local Indigenous communities. The County of Los Angeles recognizes that we occupy land originally and still inhabited and cared for by the Tongva, Tataviam, Serrano, Quiche, and Chumash peoples. We honor and pay respect to their elders and descendants, past, present, and emerging, as they continue their stewardship of these lands and waters. We acknowledge that settler colonialization resulted in land seizure, disease, subjugation, slavery, relocation, broken promises, genocide, and multi-generational trauma. This acknowledgement demonstrates our responsibility and commitment to truth, healing, and reconciliation, and to elevating the stories, culture, and community of the original inhabitants of Los Angeles County. We are grateful to have the opportunity to live and work on these ancestral lands. We are dedicated to growing and sustaining relationships with Native peoples and local tribal governments, including, in no particular order, the Fernandino Tataviam Band of Mission Indians, the Gabrieleno Tongva Indians of California Tribal Council, Gabrieleno Tongva San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians, Gabrieleno Band of Mission Indians Quiche Nation, San Manuel Band of Mission Indians, San Fernando Band of Mission Indians. To learn more about the First Peoples of Los Angeles County, please visit the Los Angeles City County Native American Indian Commission website at lanaic.lacounty.gov. Thank you. Now we're going to continue with a little bit of history and talk through both the program vision and impact thus far. First, some background. Some of you may be familiar with the Getty Mera undergraduate program. Our arts internship program is a sister program to the Gettys, which was launched in 1993. Our program launched in the year 2000, and the two programs have run on parallel tracks and together constitute the largest paid arts internship program for college students in the country. We are grateful to the Getty for their longstanding support since this program's inception. On the screen, you can see the vision statement for the program. This language, which we revised in 2020, acknowledges that students gain a wide variety of benefits from the experience, regardless of whether or not they ultimately pursue a career in the arts. We believe that through the program, both the experience within your organizations as well as through the educational components that we provide, interns will gain skills that are transferable to contexts inside and outside of the arts. To date, more than 3,500 students have participated in this program, and one of the wonderful things we've seen in the last decade is an increasing number of former interns who are popping up in leadership positions all over LA County. We even have former interns returning as mentors for various pieces of the program. We are so proud that since 2020, all of the interns in the history of the program have contributed over 1.4 million hours of work to the field. In 2017, the Board of Supervisors passed the Cultural Equity and Inclusion Initiative that instructed our department to look into ways that we could expand our programming to become more equitable and inclusive to all folks in the region. As part of that initiative, the internship program was expanded to provide more opportunities for community college students who had historically been underrepresented in our program. Our program continues to emphasize participation from community college students. Myself and my colleague Sam Avithia, the Arts Internship Program Specialist, have built close relationships with many of the community colleges in the LA region and do direct outreach to their students each year. We look forward to having grantees join us in this work, as some of you yourselves may have some of those existing connections. Any organization who self-identifies in the app as being interested in hosting a community college student will be listed on our website to help facilitate recruitment. No organizations will be singled out as community college hosts. Since this initiative was introduced, I'm happy to report that we've seen quite the increase in community college students in the program from previous years. So now that you know a little bit about the history and impact of the program, let's talk through organizational eligibility. Firstly, this is a grant program for organizations, not for individuals. You must be a nonprofit arts organization that has had its 501(c)(3) status for at least 2 years. Now, for us, arts means performing, presenting, literary, or municipal arts. It does not include visual arts organizations or museums. Those organizations are funded through the Getty program and, as such, are not eligible to participate in our program. We also define an arts organization as one that spends 51% of its budget or more on arts-related programming. You cannot be a part of a college or university if you're participating in this program. However, fiscally sponsored organizations are okay so long as your fiscal sponsor is located in California and you are under a Model A arrangement. Your fiscal sponsor must also be willing and able to handle all payments and contracting that is required by the program. If this is your first time applying or you are newly returning as a fiscally sponsored organization, you will be asked to submit proof of all of these qualifications at the end of that application. More on that later. This is, of course, a county program. So in addition to the eligibility I just covered, you must also be based here in Los Angeles County. That means that your offices are physically located here and that your mission is to serve residents of this region. You must also be an actively, in addition to being based in LA County, you must put on a minimum of 4 public programs or performances per year. You must also be an actively functioning organization, meaning you have a board that meets regularly with more than half of your board members living in the state of California. You must also produce a minimum of 4 programs or performances, as I just mentioned, and of course, adhere to all applicable laws. Current and former grantees of our Community Impact Arts Grant Program, also known as CIAG, are also able to apply as long as you are in good standing with the CIAG grant and have current arts programming. These organizations are social justice and social service organizations who use the arts in their service provisions. Every year, they contribute great internship opportunities for AIP candidates, and we're so excited to welcome them into the program. Again, if you are a part of a college or university, or if you work for a visual arts organization such as an art museum or gallery, your organization is not eligible to participate in the arts internship program. New this year, I'm going to say that again, this is new this year. This also includes current grantees of our sister program, the Organizational Grant Program, also known as OGP. Organizations that apply to and receive funding from OGP as a visual arts organization are not eligible to participate in the arts internship program and should instead seek out the Getty's program accessible on their website located here on the screen. If your organization is currently an OGP grantee, please double check what artistic discipline you applied for under OGP to determine your eligibility for internship. This is a guideline change we made this year just to bring greater parity between our 2 major grant programs. And so again, if you are receiving funds for OGP as a visual arts organization, that will make you ineligible for internship moving forward. Even if your organization meets the minimum program requirements, there are other things you should be considering before applying. Panelist reviewers are really looking for organizations who are truly able to take an intern during the program, meaning that a student will not be banished to a desk in a closet or asked to fend for themselves. Capacity to recruit, select, train, mentor, and onboard your intern is paramount. The panel does look closely at your application to get a sense of how your organization will approach the program. There's also some paperwork and data collection involved in this process. Not a ton, but we are, after all, a government agency. So any organization, in addition, any new organization to the program will be required to attend our supervisor orientation in the spring that is held in partnership with the Getty Foundation. I know people chafe under the term required, but the feedback from this event every year is overwhelmingly positive, and we work hard to make sure that is an informational event for everyone in attendance. Finally, um, oops, you will need to be sure that your organization can physically host an intern. In recognition of the shifting world of work, we are asking you to submit internship proposals that can be completed on site with the option of up to 100 hours being worked remotely. Should there be any changes to the public health guidance that will affect these internships, the department will be in contact with all grantees as soon as it's available. Organizations will be able to request that their interns work more than 100 hours remotely if one of the following is true. The intern needs to return to work before the end of the internship. B, the organization has adopted a remote work policy that would cause the intern to work more than 100 hours remotely. Or C, the organization's offices are not open at the time of the internship. Secondly, all equipment an intern needs to complete the internship must be provided by the organization. That most commonly takes the form of a company issued laptop or computer. This is the case regardless of whether the intern is working on site or remotely. And this is underlined because we get a shocking amount of applications every year that say that an intern needs to be able to provide their own equipment. And that is goes against explicitly what is stated in the program guidelines. So please, please, please make sure that your organization is thinking about technology so that that does not sneak its way into your application. Okay, I'm going to take a pause here and just check in with Mara. Any questions before I proceed?
Nothing's been surfaced in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you, Mara. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about what to do if your what do you get if your organization is awarded an intern? We're going to talk a little bit about grant amounts and awards, where we also have some pretty big updates to share. So, due to extraordinary and unprecedented pressures on the countywide budget, all county departments had to make budget cuts in preparation for the FY 25-26 fiscal year. For the Department of Arts and Culture, this amounted to a significant cut, which in turn resulted in cuts to the Arts Internship Program budget, among other grant programs. As a result, the total number of available internships this year has been reduced from 228 to 118. To ensure as many organizations as possible receive interns, the guidelines were also amended to cap the maximum intern request to one intern per organization. I'm going to pause here to just say that we know that this is very difficult news in a sea of difficult news for our arts organizations, and we want to recognize that here. The decision to reduce the overall number of applications that an organization requests was made to ensure that organizations are not taking the time to submit applications for internships we simply do not have the funding for. I'm going to probably say this a million times throughout this presentation, but the internship program was already a competitive grant program. It is going to be incredibly more competitive this year. So all of the updates that we're trying to share, the clear communication that we're trying to have with grantees is in full awareness that the landscape is shifting when it comes to applying for this program. So I know that it is maybe difficult to process this information, and we certainly understand and feel that as well. But reducing the maximum intern request, we hope, will save a lot of organizations time and energy for applications that are likely to not get funded this year. So just for some background on how we arrived at that decision. How much you are eligible for depends on your organization's budget size. The table here on the screen breaks down the size of the awards based on your organization's budget size. Organizations with budgets under $500,000 will receive an additional $700 administrative stipend in their grant to help offset costs of hosting an intern. This can include things like purchasing equipment, as I just mentioned, because the interns should not have to provide it, covering payroll taxes, mileage reimbursement, etc. Organizations with budgets over $500,000 are not eligible to receive the $750 administrative stipend. So just to be clear, for one intern, if your organization has a budget under $500,000, then you would your maximum allowable intern request is one. You would get a $750 administrative stipend for a total grant of $7,898. If your budget is over $500,000, it is still a maximum allowable intern request of one with a total grant amount of $7,148. Regardless of the size of your grant award, all interns are to be paid the same amount. Your organization will need to plan for additional costs that may not be covered by the grant. New grantees will also need to pay special attention to recruitment costs, as they can often take time and additional resources. So your organization will need to consider a rate of pay of $17.87 an hour. I'm going to come back to that in just a minute. But in addition to the hourly salary, you will also need to anticipate and plan for additional costs such as recruitment efforts and expenses, time and energy, printing flyers, creating social media graphics, those kinds of things, employer taxes, parking or mileage reimbursement. If the intern is expected to travel as part of their daily tasks, they do need to be reimbursed for mileage. And then last but not least, technology or equipment needs for the intern, ensuring that they have a laptop or a work phone, whatever they may need in order to conduct business on behalf of the organization. One frequent question we get is, where do taxes fit into all of this? Remember that this is a grant to the organization, not to the intern. The intern will be hired by your organization as a regular employee. If you use a payroll service, then your intern should be put on payroll, meaning he or she will receive the $7,148 minus taxes. If you do not have a payroll service and you pay your intern the full amount, you will need to issue a 1099 to them at the end of the year. For our perspective, payroll is highly recommended for all organizations given AB5, which is, of course, the state law that puts some very tough parameters around contracted positions versus full-time positions. Your organization must comply with all labor laws when hiring the intern. Unfortunately, myself and our staff are not lawyers or legal counsel, so it is up to your organizations to determine what works best with the resources that your organization has. One final note, the city and the county of Los Angeles are currently reviewing their minimum wage each year in January, meaning that between the time your organization submits the application and when awards are announced, the minimum wage in the county may change. Awarded grantees will be notified in January 2026 of any changes, and award amounts will be adjusted accordingly at the time to account for any increase. It will be the responsibility of the grantee to ensure that the interns are receiving the new rate of pay. And I just want to echo again, all interns are to be paid the same amount in the program, $17.87, no lower. Now, let's talk a little bit about the program timeline and intern eligibility. So this is a crucial slide. This is the program timeline. We are, of course, over here on the far left in the application period. The application period for this year's application will close on Thursday, October 9th, at which point we will move into the review of applications with the goal of hosting our panel in January. That will allow us to notify organizations of their awards by mid-February and then move into contracting. Positions will be posted on our website on a rolling basis starting on April 1st. That's right here in the middle. I'll explain more about this in a minute, but in the application, you will be choosing which month you would like your position launched to our website so that you can begin recruitment. April 1st is the earliest. That is the first launch date of the program, meaning that any organization who wanted their positions posted on April 1st will be able to begin recruitment on that day. The earliest an intern will be able to begin their internship is June 1st, 2026, and all 400 hours of the internship must be completed by March 1st of 2027. So essentially, we are talking about a 9-month work window that your organization has to play with in terms of proposing your project. Some internships may start on June 1st, work 40 hours a week, and end in August. Some internships may start in July and work 15 hours a week and go all the way through December. Your organization will have a lot of flexibility. We'll talk more about that in just a minute, but I just want to note here on the slide that this is the total intern work window, and you are ultimately proposing projects that are taking place within this timeline. So let's talk a little bit about intern eligibility. Your organization is awarded the grant. Who can you actually hire when you are awarded the grant? So the program is intended to support students who have a connection to LA, either as residents of LA County or as current students of LA County. Intern candidates must be currently enrolled undergraduates, either at four-year universities or community college. We don't ask for full-time enrollment, part-time enrollment. We don't look at any of that. We define enrolled as being signed up for at least one class at the time of application. So full-time, part-time, we don't care. We just want to see that they are enrolled in at least one class during the time of application. In addition, students who are going to be graduating, or who we call recent graduates, between May 1st and December 1st of 2026 are also eligible to participate. We have some organizations that are specifically looking for those graduating seniors because they maybe want to fill long-term roles. That's totally fine. So any interns that are graduating next year would also be eligible to participate. A student must reside in or attend school in LA County, one or the other. So a student who is from Los Angeles but goes to school in New York is eligible by virtue of being a resident of LA County. And the reverse is true. A student who is from New York but going to school in LA County is eligible to participate by virtue of going to school in LA County. Intern candidates may not. New this year, this is another one of the big changes. We are no longer allowing co-enrolled high school students to participate in this program. So intern candidates may not be high school students co-enrolled in college courses. Sorry, there should be a bullet point in between these two things on the slide. So intern candidates may not be a high school student who is co-enrolled in college classes. They cannot have a prior bachelor's or degree or higher. They cannot have previously participated in the LA County Arts Internship Program before. This is a one and done program. And they cannot be a previous staff member or the relative of a staff or board member of your organization. So we would welcome those folks to apply to other organizations. But if there is a personal relation between the prospective intern and the organization through a staff or a board member, that intern is not eligible to intern where they have the personal connection. They can apply to other orgs, but they cannot apply to the org where they have the connection. All organizations will be required to submit proof of enrollment and proof of residency to us here at the county before your intern can begin work. Our team will be the ones to verify that the intern has never participated in the program before. So we encourage all of our grantees to ask that question just in case. But it will ultimately be our team that vets the intern and it lets you know in real time if they are approved to participate in the program. Now that we've covered the program structure, let's discuss some items to keep in mind as you prepare to apply. So it's very likely that many of us, have had internships, been interns in the past. So I would love, if possible, for those that feel comfortable, in the chat box, can you answer this question for me? In your experience, what is one aspect of a successful internship? So please drop your responses in the chat. While I wait, I want to ground this next portion of the presentation in this question because I think this is a great starting point for the application. What would it be like if you were an intern in your organization? I think coming in with that headspace can be really useful as you think about how to submit an application, what projects an intern may want to support with, what might be fun for an intern to kind of learn. I think starting with this question really can kind of generate a lot of fruitful thoughts as you're completing your application. Okay, so I see some responses coming in. Thank you so much. So first response, learning office culture, day-to-day tasks, and administrative skills. Absolutely. This is for many of our interns, the first real-time work experience they will ever have. So giving them that experience, learning how to cut their teeth, absolutely important. Second response, fully immersing the intern in the core work of the organization. Absolutely. So many of our interns come to this program being inspired by the work that you guys are doing in the field. And so really embedding them in the mission of that can be super helpful. And last year, a clear development timeline during your time as an intern and what you'll gain from the experience. Absolutely. So what I'm gathering here is like creating a successful onboarding plan, a successful training plan, a successful work plan for the intern can also really help them feel acclimated and get adjusted. Great suggestion. Gaining new skills, having a proper goal of what is wanted to achieve during the internship period. Absolutely. These are great responses. Thank you so much for sharing. Like I said, I think this question is fertile ground for thinking about some of our starting places for some of these questions. So thank you for those great responses. So essentially, each of your internships applications is a unique project-based proposal for each intern. Successful projects can run the gamut, but usually fall into some of the categories that you see here, like research, arts education, marketing, communications, social media, grant writing, fundraising, producing or presenting, or event planning. Ultimately, we want proposals that are substantive. They shouldn't be a backlog of projects that everyone else has avoided that you're just dumping on an intern. We use the filing example a lot, meaning like we don't want an intern banished into the closet filing a bunch of paperwork. However, we all know that all jobs include a degree of filing or other busy work. We're not saying that there can't be any busy work, but it shouldn't constitute the majority of the intern's work or project. A common mistake we see in these applications is framing this internship proposal as a staff position. While we want there to be substantive work for the intern, they are not a substitute for staffing gaps in your organization, and the panel will take note if they feel the project is being outlined is more for a staff than it would be for an intern. So you're really looking to strike a delicate balance between giving the intern enough work to feel like they're learning and growing and developing a skill set, but not crafting an internship position that is actually an unfilled staffing gap in disguise, right? So please, that is a huge piece of advice that we'd like you to keep in mind as you're thinking about this application. If you're looking for some inspiration, please be sure to check our website for the current list of positions. Note that the position descriptions listed there are brief, and for marketing and recruitment purposes, the application provides more space for you to flesh out your learning objectives, and the expectation is that you do so. In the chat, Mara actually just dropped the link to the current list of internship positions. So again, if you are looking for a place to kind of get ideas and get inspiration, we encourage you to look at that list. So once a project has been decided upon, here are some additional elements that we want you to consider for a successful project. First, what are the learning objectives? These should not just be general, like learn how to work in a nonprofit or learn how to be mission aligned. We really want to see learning objectives that are specific to the proposal that you are putting forward. You guys have a lot of creativity in the structure and the design of these internships, so all of these pieces need to be aligned. We also want to see integration into the organization via a well thought out orientation. We all understand that sometimes nonprofit life means that you're kind of hitting the ground running. And I think on the vast majority of interns are actually okay with that. However, that cannot be the tempo of the entire internship. There needs to be very thoughtful consideration given to the way that an intern is brought into the organization, the way they're introduced to the work, the expectations that are placed on them. So we want to see that in the application as well. Meaningful on-the-job training and work experience, we've talked about that. Excellent communication between intern and supervisor, a concrete project with clear deliverables, adequate workspace dedicated to specifically to the intern, and of course, sufficiently challenging responsibilities. So these are kind of overarching things for you to keep in mind as you're crafting that intern project. Now, let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into the 400 hours. In the application, you will also be providing to us all the necessary information to post your positions on our website in the event that your organization is awarded. So we ask you to front load that information in the application so that we already have it come the springtime when things are ready to post. You will be identifying all of this information in the application. So first, you will be selecting the launch date of the position, which is ultimately when you can begin recruitment. You will also be selecting how many hours a week the intern will be working. The minimum hours per week is 15, the maximum is 40. From there, you will need to determine the start and end dates for your internship. This gives your organization much greater flexibility in terms of the type of internship project you want to propose relative to the way our program used to run, which was all internships 40 hours a week full time. However, this does require more advanced planning. So let's give an example. Let's say that an organization has a project beginning in June and ending in September. So they want their intern to start as early as possible, in this case, June 1st of 2026. The organization has decided that their intern will be working 15 hours a week. If you take 400 hours and divide that by 15 hours a week, that is a 27-week internship, meaning that the intern who started in June is actually not going to complete their hours until December. But this project that was proposed ends in September. So if the organization has not planned properly, then the intern may not have enough work to do after the initial project ends in September. To give another example, an intern cannot start a 15-hour-a-week internship in December, as that internship would need 27 weeks to complete, meaning that it would end at the end of June, which is very far past the March 1st deadline. As you can see, it will be critical for your organization to think through the intern project, how many hours you want the intern to work a week, start and end dates, as well as the time as it will take to recruit students. It is the responsibility of the organization to track intern hours and work with the student to ensure that all 400 hours are complete by March 1st of 2026. Some reminders about intern work hours. Again, interns can work between 15 and 40 hours a week. This means no less than 15 hours a week. It happens every single year that I get to March and I get an email from a grantee saying that an intern did not finish their hours. And then I look at timesheets and they were working 8 to 10 hours a week. So 15 hours a week is the minimum. If your organization cannot commit to supervising an intern for 15 hours a week at minimum, then I think that that is goes a long way into factoring in whether or not you should apply for this program. Any intern that works more than 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week is expected to be paid overtime, and the grant does not cover that. So, again, how intentional your organization will need to be in the planning of these hours. Flexing hours within a work week is not allowed. What do I mean by that? You cannot have an intern work a 10-hour day and then a 6-hour day and call that 2 8-hour days. That is actually illegal. We know it's something that happens a lot in the nonprofit industry, but that is not allowed in the arts internship program. On the flip side of this, we expect interns to be just as committed to the internship as our organizations. So we expect that interns should not be taking time, extended time off for vacations or otherwise. And when it comes to holiday pay, we leave that to your organizations to determine. But we do expect the intern to be treated the same as employees of their similar classification, whether that's part-time or full-time. I just here, this third column here are the launch dates you will be able to choose from. Your organization should consider the time it will take your organization to recruit the intern when determining which launch date would be best. Please note that due to the reduction in internship positions, the previously available July 1st launch date has been removed. So this year, we are only moving forward with 3 launch dates, April, May, and June. So recruiting the right intern is challenging for a lot of grantees. Here are some things to keep in mind when thinking about intern recruitment. Again, thinking about time. How long is it going to take? For some organizations, you might be connected to college students and you can grab somebody quickly. Great. Other organizations may take a little bit of work. So, thinking again about how you're building in enough time for your organization to be to recruit. If you are proposing a project that overlaps with the school year, meaning that the intern will be working any portion of the fall, please keep in mind that once students go back to school, finding an intern becomes much more difficult. Typically in the August, September timeline, we start to hear from grantees saying that the applications are really, really drying up. So you may need to factor in additional time for recruitment if the project is taking place in the fall. Uh, in addition, any student that is currently in school is not going to be able to work 30 to 40 hours a week, right? So again, if your project is going to be spanning the fall, it's going to need to be less hours per week, and you're going to need to spend more time finding the interns to work it. And last but certainly not least, please consider casting a wide net. We do not require students to have prior experience in the arts to participate in this program, meaning that you can reach out to colleges and universities of all different kinds and students of all different kinds. And we also do not require them to be majoring in the arts in order to participate. We have students who are pre-med, engineering, language focus. So we hope that that is of a help to folks as you are recruiting, that you can cast a very wide net. And just to note, the arts department is committed to cultural equity and inclusion. All participating organizations are strongly encouraged to recruit and select students of diverse backgrounds, including students with disabilities. And our program is ramping up to better support interns with disabilities in various ways throughout the cycle. Mara, just popping in for any questions, y'all. Are there any in the chat?
In the chat.
Okay. Must mean I'm doing a good job. Thanks everybody for hanging on. I know it's a lot of information. If questions come up, please drop them in the chat. Okay, so now that your organization has laid the groundwork for your internship, let's talk about what makes a successful application. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, I see this, Mara. I'm gonna go ahead and answer it. So the question here is, can hours be a combination of 15 or 40? Meaning, can you mess with the hours during the internship? The answer is yes, but of course, you're gonna need an intern that can really ride that wave, right? And if a student is balancing school in addition to other responsibilities plus the internship, that can be a little uh, crazy making, let's say, for an intern. So what I would highly suggest is that if you expect there to be a fluctuation in hours, talk about that at every step of the way. Write it in the job description so that when it gets posted to our website, an intern sees that. Talk about it during the interview process. Hey, we might have to mess with the hours per week an intern works. Are you okay with that? What are your other commitments? You will need to be as transparent as possible. But yes, well, we want your organizations to have the flexibility to be able to change those schedules as needed. So again, as long as the intern and the organization are in agreement about what that looks like, it would be totally fine. Thank you so much for that question. Okay, so here is a list of all 8 sections of the arts internship program, of the arts internship application. The 2026 internship position, project and supervisor information task, say that a million times over, is constitutes the majority of that application and is where you should plan to spend a little bit, spend the most of your time right here. So this 2026 internship position project and supervisor information task, that is really where you're going to want to make sure you are spending the most of your time. So because of that, I want to dive a little bit more deeply into this task. So this is a breakdown of that specific task in the application that I just mentioned, where you will be providing some key information. Firstly, the internship project and internship learning objective sections are heavily scrutinized by panelists, these two sections up here. So please make sure that you are providing robust answers in these sections. Please also make sure that the learning objectives are relevant and specific to the project. I said earlier that this is a very common section. One of the learning objectives is learn how to work in a nonprofit. Yikes, very general, not specific, right? Again, highly competitive cycle probably this year, so you want to give as much specific detail as possible. Secondly, you will also be providing the internship position marketing information, such as the brief organization and position descriptions, preferred qualifications, and how to apply for the internship. In the event that your organization is awarded, we are literally going to copy and paste this information that is in the application into our website so that our website can act as a tool in your recruitment. Therefore, it would be in your best interest for you and your organization to ensure that the language provided in this section is exciting, relevant, and engaging to interns who are looking to apply to your internship. There are a lot of online resources for writing a compelling job posting that I would encourage all of you to look at. Just do a quick Google search. There's a lot of leadership and a lot of scholarship around how to do that. So please take the time to make sure that you're writing something that is compelling, that an intern is going to, catch their eye and be compelled to apply for. And finally, in the event that the intern will be working at a location that is different from the organization's main address, we will also ask you to provide that additional address here. Please note that the internship project session is where you are explaining to panelists the bulk of your project. That's up here in this first task. It should not be the same as the brief position description that is used to market the position towards interns, right? So to say that in a little bit simpler terms, the first half of this task is in greater detail, your organization explaining the project and your approach and your qualifications to hosting the intern. In the internship position marketing information section, which is towards the bottom, that is where you are putting together the marketing information that will be used to advertise your position directly to interns on our website. So you want to make sure that's engaging. It should be fun. It should be clear. It may be definitely more concise than what you are proposing to us in the top half of the task under the internship project. So two different distinct goals of those sections, meaning there should be different content in them. Now, I want to break down some other questions from the application. These are in different tasks throughout the application, but they can be a little tricky for grantees and cause issues, so I want to make sure that we are calling them out. First up, let's talk about some questions regarding your organization's hiring process and history with the program. That's this first section. So question number 1, describe your organization's recruitment and hiring process for ensuring a diverse applicant pool. This section is critical for panelists to understand. Has your organization really thought about what it's going to take to get an intern in to our organization, right? Be creative, be specific to your organization. Think about tools that you have at your disposal that you can use for outreach. Again, this is a section has a tendency to be a little bit more general and a little bit more vague when you really should be speaking to your organization's specific strengths for recruiting interns in the program. And secondly, this question is also very important. Briefly describe your organization's approach and experience regarding supporting future leaders. Please use specific examples of strategies you have used to mentor past interns. We want to hear directly from you. How is your organization going to support this intern? Again, as I mentioned before, it is very common for us to get an application from an organization that just needs help. And so sometimes these sections lean towards filling a staffing gap or an intern being thrown into something with hitting the ground running without a lot of support. We want to see the inverse of that. We want to see your organization speaking to how you will pour into this intern, how you will develop them, how you will support them, and help them grow your skill set. Second part of this question, additionally, if you have had difficulty with past interns, please highlight what you might do differently based off that experience. This is always a critical section of the application, but it's going to be even more critical as unfortunately the impacts to the budget mean we have less internships to go around. If you are a current internship grantee that has an intern and things are not going well with that internship, this is where your organization needs to speak to how you will ensure that that does not happen again next year, right? We don't need names. We don't need titles. We don't need HR protected information. We need an understanding and an acknowledgement that there was an issue in the prior cycle and a commitment to ensuring that that issue does not come up again in the future. This is another part of the application that has a tendency to get glanced over every single year. And it's a shame because this is an opportunity for any organization that had a tough internship to really share their side of the story and how they ensure that it will not happen again. So critical piece of the application. Second session here. These next questions are more focused on the actual internship project. So describe the intern's primary project during the internship, detailing specific duties and responsibilities. Very critical, details. Secondly, describe the additional day-to-day activities of the intern beyond the primary project. We said earlier that we understand all interns are going to have to do some manner of administrative work. Spell it out here. If your organization might be able to introduce interns to new people or have them shadow some folks in the industry, include that here. List up to 5 learning objectives. I've harped on those enough. And last but certainly not least, describe your supervisor's qualifications to supervise and mentor the intern. So you're actually going to tell us who are the people that are going to be supervising these interns and what are the skills that they have and the qualifications to do that. Again, details, specificity, examples, wherever possible, critical to this application. This final grouping here at the bottom, get at your organization's openness to hosting a community college student. As I shared at the top of this program, our program does have a specific emphasis on supporting students from the community colleges. So we are going to ask you, if you are awarded, would you be okay hosting a student from the community colleges? And if the answer is yes, we're going to ask, do you have any existing relationships with the community colleges? It's always helpful for us to know who is chatting with who has existing relationships with who, and so you'll be able to speak to that directly in the application itself. Okay, these are big slides, y'all, so bear with me. Last but certainly not least, early on in the application, you will be asked, okay, sorry. So yes, last but certainly not least, early on in the application, you will be asked if your organization received interns from the previous cycle or if you are a current OGP or CIAG grantee. So right now we're focusing here on this left-hand side of the slide. It is incredibly important that you answer these questions correctly. In the event that you answer yes to either of these questions, then the SurveyMonkey Apply, our online grant management system, is automatically going to hide the supplemental materials task from your application because you do not need to submit it. However, applicants who are not a current OGP or CIG grantee and did not receive interns in the previous grant cycle, which would be AIP 2025, therefore answering no to both or one question, will need to submit the additional supplemental materials. So if you answer no to both of these questions, then the application is going to show you the supplemental materials section, which you will need to complete. So let's talk about if you're a brand new grantee, meaning that you're not OGP CIAG and you did not receive an internship grant last cycle, these are the documents you will need to submit. Firstly, a copy of the organization's 501c3 determination letter. Secondly, one of the following financial documents. The first, a copy of the organization's SMU Data Arts OGP Funder Report, which is recommended, which is described in more detail later on in the guidelines, or a copy of an audited financial statement for the applicant organization's most recently completed fiscal year for a tax year ending on or after June 30th of 2023, or a financial report prepared by an accountant and signed by the board, president or chair, or signed federal tax returns for a tax year ending on or after December 31st, 2023. So that's number 2, financial documents. Number 3 is one copy of the organization's list of board members, including names, professional affiliations, place of residence, and officers with title. And number 4, one copy of a history and background of the organization that includes what you see here on the slide. Basically, we just want to understand more about your organization and specific arts programming. If you are coming to us by way of CIAG, we do need you to specifically lay out for us in this document what arts programming is currently happening at the organization, so we have an understanding of that. You must also submit a screenshot of the organization's active status with the California Secretary of State. This must include the organ's name and status in order to be valid. This is also a new requirement this year. This is just to bring us into parity with OGP and CIAG, who already require the same information. So you will also be required, new organizations and new grantees will be required to submit that screenshot as part of their application. Now, if your organization is fiscally sponsored, you have two additional documents you need to submit. The first is a copy of the agreement or verification letter from the fiscal sponsor showing that there is a Model A fiscal arrangement. And you also need a copy of the fiscal sponsor's 990 listing a state of California address. They do need to be in the state of California. So you will be required to submit that. Okay, the County of Los Angeles will also require all applicants to the Department of Arts and Culture grant programs to complete a contribution and agent declaration form to comply with the Levine Act. This is State Bill 1439, new California legislation effective January 1st, 2023, that prohibits certain appointed and elected local officers, including members of the Board of Supervisors, from taking part in decisions about awarding contracts, grants, licenses, or permits if the officer received political contributions of more than $250 in the last 12 months from a bidder, proposer, or applicant, or the bidder, proposer, or applicant's paid representative or agent. For more information about the Levine Act, you can visit the pay-to-play limits and prohibitions page on the california.gov website. To comply with the Levine Act, California state law requires you to disclose information about contributions made by certain individuals, such as paid employees, paid agents, or paid board members that represent your organization or agency. You will disclose any required information by completing the contribution and agent declaration form, a digital form that is a required component of our online grant application. Information is being collected for transparency and compliance purposes only. Reporting contributions will not disqualify you from the grant program. However, failure to respond to required questions will result in an immediate disqualification of your application to the grant program without exception. No grace period will be provided to complete this requirement. Applicants should be prepared to dedicate extra time to the process of reviewing the form, collecting and assessing data, and preparing accurate responses. As staff, we are not able to provide advice for grantees in filling out the form. However, we do have several resources for your organization to utilize, including what you see here on the screen. And actually, Mara just dropped in the chat a link to a dedicated webpage on our website where all of this information lives, including a recording from last year where our chief deputy reviewed this program in depth, or reviewed this requirement in depth, and talked through all of the different ways to approach it. So highly recommend that your organization take a look at that webpage. There are also these resources on our website that you can reach out to the FPPC to talk to them if you have questions. So please make sure that you are utilizing all of these resources as you're filling out the form. The form is simply an attestation form. If you have information to report, you will be able to do so on the form. If you don't have information to report, then you will be able to move past the attestation pretty easily. I just want to reiterate that this requirement will not affect applicants' scores in any way, and panelists will not have access to the form when you submit it. It will be hidden during panel review. So this is really just a compliance piece. Even if you are declaring reporting out donations or funding that has happened as part of this, that will not disqualify your application. We just need clear understanding of what that looks like for your organization in this form. Okay. So before we close out, let's talk briefly about our panel review process and deadlines. Panelists will be looking for evidence that you have given some thought to what your intern will be doing during the program and how what they will doing will benefit the intern. What meaningful and transferable skills will they learn? For example, as a result, we do ask that you identify a specific primary project for the intern and tell us what that project is. We know that taking on an intern is an investment, so you could have the most amazing project in the world, but you must also have the time and capacity to take care of your intern. One of the most consistent critiques we hear from interns is, I love my organization, they do great work, but they don't need an intern, they really need more staff. So as I mentioned before, there's a balancing act required here. We want you to give interns meaningful experience while also recognizing that they are signing up for a short-term commitment. If you participated before, panelists will also be considering the organization's history with the program and specifically whether if there have been issues in the past regarding supervision, payment, oversight, any of those kinds of things. All internship applications go through two levels of review. The first level of review is aimed at assessing the strength of the application and how well it meets the goals of the program. The second level of review is aimed at finalizing the pool based on a number of competing factors that you can see here on this slide. They include things like community served, geographic location of internship, discipline, artistic discipline, cultural tradition represented, organizational budget size, type of internship project, interest in and capacity to recruit and host community college students. As I've said before, due to the reduction of overall positions, we do anticipate this year being more competitive than ever, and I do expect that these additional points of balancing will be even more critical this year as we seek to ensure that there are a wide variety of opportunities across the pool. Unfortunately, it does mean that every year we have to turn down perfectly great and strong internship applications simply because there's not enough funding to go around. Unfortunately, this year, even more so. So thinking about the geographic diversity, the types of internships that you're proposing, making sure that they're unique and specific and exciting for an intern is your best way to make this application competitive. And so, just keep that in mind as you are submitting that some of this process is under your control in terms of submitting a strong application, and some of it will come down to the metrics by which we're trying to balance the overall pool based off of the number of applicants. Okay, pausing for questions.
Nothing in the chat yet, but maybe something will surface.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a breather. So let's take 30 seconds. I love awkward silence. If you have a question, now would be a great time to drop it in the chat. Okay, we are on the back end here of this presentation. So we will also have time at the very end here for questions. Um, all applicants will submit your application to us and grant materials to us via the SurveyMonkey Apply online grant management system. So I want to dedicate the remaining time here to talking a little bit about that system. And
Martin,
apologies. Oh, please.
one question, just
Mhm.
as you started, is anything you are going over regarding the application a new emphasis or topic we need to pay attention to considering the reduction in interns?
Oh, amazing question. I don't actually think that it really changes the structure of how an organization is applying too greatly, but I will say um thinking about the uniqueness of your project and how, it might be better to put forward something that um may be hard for another organization to put forward, something that, again, what can your organization provide that maybe other organizations that are similar cannot? I think specificity, highly detailed applications that have a specific project that seems unique and very compelling for an intern. That's always the gold standard in the program, to be completely honest, but this year is going to be even more critical. And pardon me, maybe this is a little too on the nose, but I also think, there are some grantees just by virtue of necessity are copying and pasting applications from prior years into this year's application, hitting submit and moving on. While we understand that capacity is tight, this is probably not the year to do that. Because sometimes that means fiscal years get missed and it's something from a previous year, and it just opens you up to some of those errors. So I would be creating internships that are a lot more specific, a lot more unique, and that have a lot more detail. But again, those things are kind of things we're always looking for, and panel is always looking for in the internship application. They just become heightened this year given the change in budget. Thank you so much for that great question. Okay, so if you use SurveyMonkey to apply for any of our grant programs before, then all you will need to do is log into the system, click Programs in the upper top navigation bar, and find the Arts Internship Program, then click the green Apply button, which will open up a new application. If your organization is new to the system and has not yet created an account, I'm going to walk you through those steps now. Firstly, you will need to visit our dedicated SurveyMonkey Apply website, and Amara just dropped that in the chat. In the upper right-hand corner, you will find and click the green register button to get started. When creating a new account, it is important to remember that you are creating an account for your entire organization, not an individual. Each organization should only have one SurveyMonkey account, period. Once you click the okay, so yeah, so login information should be shared with relevant staff. And when you click the register button, you're going to be asked what type of applicant are you. It is very important that you select organization. Once you click the register button, you will move to step 1, where you will be asked to provide your name as well as an email address and password. Please make sure that this login information is shared with any relevant staff who may need to access the account in the future. Once submitted, step 2 is to check the email you provided for a verification email with the link that you can click to finish registering. So here on this slide is step 1. Step 2 is what you will get once you fully create the account and they send you the verification email. After you click the link in the verification email, your account will be created and you can move on to step 3, which is completing the eligibility profile for your organization. The eligibility profile is essential. It tells SurveyMonkey what kind of organization you are, so it knows which grants you are eligible for. It is important that you fill out all of this information correctly, as our department uses SurveyMonkey Apply for many different types of applications outside of grants. So if you are to fill this information out incorrectly, you could be seeing things in the system that you are not eligible for. In the eligibility profile, you will need to provide the following. You'll need to tell it what type of applicant you are. You will select organization. You will also tell it what type of organization you are. So for us, that's either a 501c3 nonprofit, a fiscally sponsored organization, or a municipality or tribal government. You will also need to provide the organization name, the FEIN number, the DUNS number, your address, your supervisorial district, your main phone number, and your main email. Your grant applications, you will not be able to see anything in the system until you complete this eligibility profile. So where you will be stuck on this little box that says to get started, fill out your eligibility profile until you actually do so. So it is very, very important that you take this as your first step. So once your eligibility profile is complete, you will have access to the main toolbar depicted here on this slide. Let's review the 3 functions you will use the most: the My Account, Programs, and My Applications. So My Account, you actually access this by clicking on your name in the upper right. So this is my test account, Martin Test Account Hernandez. And you click on that name, and then here's My Account. In My Account, you can update the profile picture, the personal information, site notification settings, time zone and preferred language, and it's where you can access the eligibility profile. Why is that important? Every time your organization updates its information, you need to update the eligibility profile in SurveyMonkey Apply. Most commonly, the address, meaning that if your organization moves, make sure you update the address in SurveyMonkey Apply. You would do that under the eligibility profile, which is under My Account. Programs. I am thinking about this especially today because this week alone, I think I've gotten 4 emails from folks saying, Martin, I can't see the arts internship application in my portal. That's because it is hiding up here in programs. So whenever you want to start a new grant, whether it's internship, CIAG, OGP, you first click this programs box. That will show you all of the open grants. Again, when you fill out your eligibility profile and give it all of that information, it then shows you in programs only things that you are eligible for. So that is where you would go find the arts internship application and open up a new application. Just as a heads up, once the application cycles are closed, we hide all of our applications in SurveyMonkey Apply so that nobody can erroneously open up an application at an inappropriate time. So just note that for the majority of the year, that programs tab is empty. It literally only has program cards in there during the 6 weeks out of the year when our grant applications are open. So if it's blank and you're looking at it, that it could be why. And last but certainly not least, My Applications. After you open an application in programs, it will show up in your My Applications dashboard. So this is your homepage for all of your open applications. We love the fact that if you are a grantee of internship and CIAG or a grantee of internship and OGP, you come into the system and you can see all of those applications in the same portal, which would be right under your My Applications dashboard. So again, you would start in programs, go in there, open up the internship application, and then once you do that, you would be able to find it under My Applications. I just want to note that SurveyMonkey seems to be making a lot of updates and changes to the system, but overall, we're very impressed with them as a grant management system. For any of you who have participated in grant applications for us in the past decade, we've used a number of different services, and we do feel that SurveyMonkey Apply really does a lot to support us and to support applicants. If at any point you have questions, you can actually click this I button in the upper right-hand corner and request support from SurveyMonkey. Apply directly via email or a phone call. They are super supportive, super quick to respond. And if you have issues accessing an account with like passwords or things like that, we actually have to refer you to them anyway, as we're not able to support with those accounts. So the SurveyMonkey team is also there to support you as needed. So as I mentioned before, when you click on programs, you will get to go in and see the actual LA County Arts internship card. And once you hit this green apply button, it will open up an application that you can then find in My Applications. So programs first, then My Applications. Um, uh, Here are some additional tips for success when working with SurveyMonkey Apply. This is over now, I think, 6 years of us working with SurveyMonkey Apply. I'm going to say it again. You are creating an account for your organization, not individual staff. 6 people at one organization should not have 6 SurveyMonkey accounts. It should be one account per organization. So that may also mean that you need to keep the login information in an accessible place for all staff. Our team cannot assist with password resets and username resets. That is something that SurveyMonkey will need to handle. So it's better to kind of keep that in a secure place, but in a secure place that everybody who needs access to the account can. We highly suggest drafting application responses in a Word document and then pasting them into the application later. It's just a little bit of extra insurance in case there's any tech glitches. I know I've been there where I've been write out a 12-paragraph essay and you accidentally hit that refresh button and sayonara to all of that incredible hard work. So, pro tip, all of our grantees, I feel like this doesn't get utilized a ton, but all of our programs actually have sample application PDFs on our website, internship included, meaning that you can go download a PDF of all of the questions. And so we highly suggest utilizing that in preparation to apply. And last, but certainly not least, you should be submitting your application 3 to 5 days in advance to allow for any technical issues that do occur. SurveyMonkey Apply, again, is really phenomenal about letting us know if there are major tech issues during a grant period, but none of us can prevent everything. So the best insurance that you have is to not wait until the deadline. And I know that folks are going to wait until the deadline. We know that it just happens, but obligatory note here that it really is just a safer bet to submit as soon as possible so that you don't have to worry about it. And for those of you that are applying to OGP and CIAG, in addition to internship, please note that our application deadline is 9 days later than OGP and CIAG. So we are open for a period of time. There is overlap, but our internship application closes the week after OGP and CIAG. So please just keep that in mind. We've made it, y'all. Just want to go through some final pieces here, and then I see some questions in the chat, so thank you for that. Firstly, oops. Let me get back to this slide. Okay, so firstly, just want to run through really quickly final deadlines, important deadlines. The deadline is Thursday, October 9th, 2025. As I mentioned, that is the week after OGP and CIAG, so please make sure that you are planning accordingly. We are hoping to notify all grantees of their awards no later than basically Valentine's Day of next year. So unfortunately, it is a submit the application and wait process, but we will try to get back to folks as soon as possible. We anticipate that contracts and invoices will be due at the end of March of 2026 for those that have been awarded. And of course, just a final reminder that the first batch of positions gets posted online on April 1st. I host weekly virtual office hours. I had them for the first time yesterday, and had some great conversations with folks. I will be hosting them from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. every Wednesday during the application period. So that is the last one will be the day before the application closes on October 8th. Again, Mara just dropped in the chat a link to our my Calendly link. We love this Calendly thing. You can go in there and pick a time slot that works for you and me, and we will jump and it will send me and you a Zoom appointment with the Zoom link for us to jump on, and I can answer any questions. Those office hours are a great opportunity if there are specific questions to your organization. Hey, I don't know quite so much about our eligibility, or we're thinking about this. What do you think? Please, please, please use those office hours. We can't get to everybody, of course, in the application workshops, but those office hours are a way for me to get one-on-one time with you all to answer any questions that you may have. And last but certainly not least, you can reach myself or my colleague Sam Avithia at our general internship inbox. That's internship@arts.lacounty.gov. We'll be happy to answer any questions that come into that inbox. Woo! Okay. Thank you so much for bearing with me. I'm gonna ask Mara to lift up any questions that have come into the chat. And folks, if you have them, now is the time to drop them.
How, Martine, will you be sharing the recording of this workshop?
It will be posted on our website by the end of this week. So at the apply page, uh, lacountyarts.gov/internships, you will be able to see it on our webpage. So it will be up and viewable. Yes.
And also someone mentioned that they're using an SM Apply account from a former employee of their organization. And is that fine, or will there potentially be any issues with that?
So it's fine that it was created by a former employee, but go into the My Account settings and update it. If it's you whoever is in charge now of that account, update that information. And it's such a simple thing, guys, but a lot of our grantees are just not keeping those accounts up to date. You can go in there and update them yourself. You can even change the email address that is associated with the account. So you're not going to be penalized, certainly. It's fine, but it is always best practice to ensure that your SurveyMonkey account information is up to date, because we do pull information from that occasionally and do need to ensure that all that information is up to date. So how would you do that? Click on your name and click on the account name in the upper right, click on my account, and then I believe it's in my profile is where you can make the updates to the actual account itself. And then if there's any eligibility changes, you would do that there for the eligibility profile. Yeah, great question.
Okay.
Last call. Okay. Oh, yes, but thank you. Yes, bummed about the budget cuts as well. It's been a tough couple of weeks for our team. But I am heartened by we have a current cycle that's going on right now that is very big and very busy. And we're excited to be offering some internships next year. So we thank you all for bearing with us during these unprecedented budget times. Thank you all so much for making the time to be here. I hope you have a great rest of your week. If you have questions, please, please, please feel free to reach out to us. Otherwise, wishing you all the best of luck on your applications. Stay safe out there. Bye-bye.